So my name is Suzy Moat. As Paul mentioned, I've just joined the CPC project. So I'm going to try and use this presentation to give you a flavour of the sort of work I've done before now, the kind of research I'm hoping to do as part of CPC, and how this all kind of fits together. Oh, that's there. Okay, so as has become clear from all of the presentations today, huge amounts of data are now being generated on collective human behaviour, essentially through our increasing interaction with large-scale technological systems, so like mobile phone systems or perhaps the internet. So something that we had been working on recently was looking at whether we can link online behaviour, so behaviour particularly using Google search engine, with real-world economic phenomena. So, and this is work I've done in collaboration with Tobias Price, who's here, and a number of other collaborators. And so in particular, we've shown that in advance of drops in financial market prices, you tend to see an increase in internet users looking for terms related to financial topics. We've also shown that internet users in countries with a higher per capita GDP tend to look for more information about the future in comparison to internet users in countries with a lower per capita GDP. So my interest in getting involved with CPC was also, there's obviously, as Trevor described earlier, an awful lot of interesting data that we've got hold of here. And, but also, crime is an area, like economics, where movements where movements in the same way that movements in the economic markets have a huge impact on our society's well-being. Obviously, crime is something that affects our day-to-day life. So this isn't just of scientific interest, but there's obviously a great practical interest in trying to reduce crime levels. And so, as Shane was referring to earlier, in an area such as crime, we maybe want to take it a step further. It's not just a case of understanding the behaviour, but working out whether there are any patterns in criminal behaviour that we can pick up on to perhaps anticipate patterns in the future and use this to inform the deployment of police resources. So just to take a very simple example here, it's maybe easier to see. This is data on crime incident reports, some of which have come in via 999 calls within the month for March 2010. And you can see, just looking at this, that of course there are aspects. Humans do behave in predictable manners in some ways. So, for example, we can see that at the weekends we start to see reports on crime coming later into the night. If we see, we've got time across the bottom here and the days of the month up the side. So we can see for each of the weekends we start to see a basic pattern that there's later reports of crime. And we can also see the night where people are reporting less crime. And so obviously this isn't rocket science at this point, but we can, on the basis that we can see these basic patterns, we can hope if we apply slightly more nuanced spatiotemporal data mining techniques, so taking this temporal aspect, linking it to spatial issues as well, then we can maybe start to pick up on some smaller patterns that would be of use in informing police resource deployment. So there's obviously a number of ways that we could perhaps start to look at this data. There's the intrinsic qualities of the data itself, so spatial issues, so locations of recent events, for example, temporal issues, whether we can infer anything from the recent frequency of events to anticipate what might be coming up. And there's obviously a range of data sets that we've got here in CPC, as Trevor described. So there's also the fantastic GPS data that Lito was describing. And by linking, and also data on recorded crimes, so not just the reports of crimes. And so by linking these different data sets together, we can maybe overcome some limitations in certain aspects of the data set. So for example, this was just reports, and so we might see biases in the description of crime that actually comes from the fact that those are crime reports from people who've watched them. There's also, I think, a lot of opportunity to try and link this crime data to other real-world data. So perhaps by looking, we've obviously got this very interesting transport data. So by looking at where people are moving to, then perhaps we can infer something from this movement as to something that they have recognized in their environment, which goes beyond the reports that are being made. Or taking a further step, there's obviously things like store card data, which is a few steps away, but that also gives us some information on where people are going, when they're going there, how often they're going there. And trying to fit this all together with what we've been doing before, there is a question of whether we can use our interactions with the internet to also give us some insight into what might be going on in this area. So search behavior gives us some sort of insight into what people are currently concerned about. Or if we think of social media, then we may find some evidence of people reporting things to their friends where they've seen a lot of people around and they assume somebody's been reporting it to the police and it's not actually come through. So there's some potential to perhaps look at this data. So I think there's a lot of exciting possibilities. I hope with a few more weeks on the project, we'll have a lot of things to talk to you about. So I hope you keep an eye on the website and come to our future workshops. And thanks very much for listening.